The boardroom at Grayson Steelworks smelled faintly of old leather and desperation. Sunlight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Dallas headquarters, glinting off the mahogany table that had seen 3 generations of Grayson sealed deals. Today, however, it felt like the scene of a funeral mine. Apparently my father, Richard Grayson, sat at the head of the table, posture rigid, a smug smile tugging at his lips as he prepared to deliver what he thought was the final word on my life. I was 32, the creative child who never quite fit the mold, or so they believed. "Well, Lena," he began, shuffling a thick stack of papers with exaggerated ceremony. "As discussed, your brother Patrick will inherit the ranch, the lake house, and the investment portfolio." He paused, savoring the moment like a slow sip of whiskey. "You get." He let the silence stretch for maximum impact. Grayson Steelworks from her seat beside him. My mother's lips curled in that familiar look of disdain, equal parts disappointment and pity. Patrick, of course, was here too, leaning back in his chair with a grin that made me want to wipe it off his face. "A failing company for the family." "Failure," he muttered, not even bothering to hide it this time. "Fitting." I didn't flinch. Years of practice had taught me the power of stillness. Instead, I clasped my hands neatly on the table, the picture of calm professionalism, the same composure I'd mastered as the anonymous CEO of Ironcrest Industries, the steel giant that had dominated headlines for the past 5 years and systematically dismantled Grayson Steelworks' empire. "Just sign here," Dad said, sliding the papers toward me. "Though I can't imagine why you'd want a company hemorrhaging millions. You should have gone to law school like your brother instead of wasting time traveling the world." What he didn't know was that my so-called wasted years were spent on factory floors in Detroit, construction sites in Houston, and trade conferences in Berlin, learning the steel business from the inside out while laying the foundation for Ironcrest. Dad cleared his throat. "The handover meeting with Ironcrest is in 30 minutes. They're taking our biggest contracts. It's the only way to keep the doors open, even if it means dealing with that secretive CEO who's been eating our market share." Patrick smirked. "Nobody even knows who runs Ironcrest. Rumor has it they're ruthless." I checked my watch, suppressing a smile. "Actually," I said lightly, "you'll meet them very soon." As if on cue, my phone buzzed a message from Marcus Hale. "My coup team in position. Ready when you are, boss." "Before we move forward," I said, rising from my chair, "you should know I've already reviewed these contracts with my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" Mom scoffed. "Since when do you have a lawyer?" The boardroom doors swung open. 5 people entered, sharp suits, sharper confidence. Marcus led them, carrying a matte black briefcase stamped with the Ironcrest logo. He stopped at the head of the table, his voice smooth as steel. "Mrs. Grayson," he said, eyes twinkling, "you're sitting in my CEO's chair." The silence that followed was delicious. "I don't understand," my father said, his brow furrowing as he stared at me from across the polished walnut table. The Dallas skyline glowed behind him through the massive glass windows. "We're frustrated, Lena. Ironcrest, that company came out of nowhere 5 years ago, founded by," he glanced at the notes in front of him, "Amit Hale." I smiled faintly. "That's my married name, by the way." "Another detail you never cared to ask about." The signing pen slipped from his fingers and clattered against the table. For a long moment, the boardroom was silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning. Patrick's smug grin evaporated into slack-jawed shock. My mother sank back into her chair, clutching her airbag like a flotation device on a sinking ship. "This is some kind of joke," my father finally managed, his face reddening. "Ironcrest Industries is a what? A $500 million company." "Actually," Marcus interrupted smoothly, popping open his briefcase, "after our last funding round, Ironcrest is valued at $780 million. He laid out glossy folders in front of them. "And yes, Lena owns 67% of the shares." The room fell even quieter. My family stared at the documents like they were written in another language. Financial statements, market analyses, acquisition terms, all stamped with Ironcrest's steel gray logo, while you were busy writing me off as a failure. I said evenly, "I was building the company that's been outperforming Grayson Steelworks in every sector." Patrick's hand trembled as he snatched up one of the folders and flipped through the pages. "The Houston shipyard contract, the West Coast expansion, the deals in Singapore." His voice cracked. "That was you." "Every single one," I confirmed. "Remember last Christmas when you mocked me for missing family dinner because I had nothing going on? I was in Singapore closing a $50 million deal." My mother's voice returned shaky and small. "But you live in that tiny loft. You drive a used car. Because unlike some people, I replied. My tone cool. I don't measure success by appearances. I invest in my company, my people, and our future. Marcus slid another set of documents across the table. Now, for the real reason we're here, these are Iron Crest's terms for acquiring Grayson Steelworks. My father's face went from red to purple. Acquiring? His voice cracked like a rusted hinge. We're just here to sell off some contracts. Dad. I leaned forward, folding my hands on the table. Grayson Steelworks is hemorrhaging money. Your market share has collapsed by 60% in 5 years. The only contracts keeping you afloat are the ones I deliberately left untouched, until now. Patrick's voice was barely a whisper. You did this on purpose. You destroyed our family's company. No, I corrected, my voice steady as steel. I built something better, a company that values innovation, treats employees with respect, and doesn't rely on an outdated family name to stay relevant. The weight of my words hung in the room like a thundercloud ready to break. For the first time in my life, they understood. I wasn't the disappointment they believed. I was the future they never saw coming. If you think this was satisfying, I continued, wait until you see how they react when I name my price. I nodded toward Marcus, who tapped the tablet on the boardroom table. Our presentation illuminated the screen behind me. Acquisition proposal. Grayson Steelworks $32 million, significantly above its current market value. All employees will be retained, Marcus said crisply, with upgraded benefits and career development programs. The Grayson name will remain as a subsidiary brand. $32 million, my father scoffed, his voice dripping with contempt, but his eyes gave him away. Calculation, desperation. He knew it was more than anyone else would offer. The alternative, I said evenly, folding my hands, is watching Grayson Steelworks collapse while Ironcrest moves into your last 2 markets. Your choice. My phone buzzed. A text from David, my husband. How's it going? Need backup? I smiled faintly, typing back. All under control. See you at dinner. Patrick still sat frozen in disbelief. All those times you showed up at family events and after at close, letting us brag about our promotions. I was gathering market intelligence. I finished for him. Amazing what people will reveal around someone they've written off. My mother straightened suddenly, her social reflexes kicking in. Well, darling, she said with brittle cheer, we always knew you had potential, and now you're so successful. Don't, I cut her off, my voice sharp enough to slice through the silence. Don't rewrite history. We all know the truth. The next few minutes would change everything. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a thick folder, laying it on the table with deliberate care. This, I said, contains every email, every memo, every conversation where you mocked me or questioned my worth. Our PR team has drafted 2 press releases. I slid copies across the table. Version A. A clean acquisition announcement. Version B. The full story, how the Grayson family underestimated their own daughter while she built the company that overtook them. Screenshots included. My father's face drained of color. You wouldn't dare, try me. I replied, my tone calm, almost gentle. I've spent 5 years being underestimated by this family. Imagine what the business world will think when they find out the mighty Graysons never noticed their biggest competitor sitting at this very table. Marcus passed the press releases around. Patrick's hands trembled as he skimmed through, his legal training unable to mask the panic in his eyes. This would destroy our reputation, he said hoarsely. The same reputation you valued more than me, I asked softly. The one that made you think it was acceptable to laugh at me during every holiday dinner. My mother reached for her old weapon, guilt. Lena, we're family. Despite everything, family. I leaned back, a slow smile forming. Funny thing about family, it's supposed to have your back, not put a knife in it. I laughed. A sharp hollow sound that made them flinch. Let me tell you about family, I said, sliding my laptop from my bag. Daniel, my husband, whom none of you ever bothered to meet, believed in me when all I had was an idea and a sketchbook. My executive team, the people you just saw walk into this room, they've been more family to me than you've been in the last decade. I flipped open the laptop, projecting Ironcrest's organizational chart onto the massive screen behind me. See these names. Sarah in R&D, Mike in operations, Tom in sales. They were all Grayson Steelworks employees once until you drove them away because you refused to see their worth. They're now department heads at Ironcrest with equity stakes. You poached our people. My father growled, his knuckles whitening on the table edge. No, I corrected, my voice calm as steel. I gave opportunities to the people you undervalued, just like you undervalued me. Patrick, ever the pragmatist, had his head bent over the acquisition documents. These terms, he muttered reluctantly, they're actually generous. Of course they are, I said smoothly. Despite everything, I'm not cruel. I'm offering above market value, job security for your employees, and a chance for the Grayson name to survive under something that works. My phone buzzed again. A trading alert. Grayson Steelworks stock was already sliding as rumors of the acquisition leaked into the market. You have 30 minutes to decide, I announced, rising from my chair. My team will stay here to answer questions. I, however, have a lunch meeting with the governor about Ironcrest's new tech workforce initiative. My mother gasped. The governor? Since when do you? Since I became one of Texas's largest employers. I cut in, slipping my laptop into my bag. Amazing what building a $780 million company does for your contact list. As I reached the door, my mother's voice stopped me. The inheritance papers, you never signed them. I glanced back, a faint smile tugging at my lips. I don't need them. Keep the houses. Keep the investments. I built something better. I paused just long enough for the next words to land. Oh, and Mom, that tiny loft you mocked, it's actually the penthouse of a building I own. That used car, a custom Tesla to your waitlist. I just never needed to show off. The next few hours blurred. My parents signed the acquisition papers because they had no choice. Patrick, the family's legal ace, scoured the documents and found nothing to fight. By sunset, Ironcrest's acquisition of Grayson Steelworks was official. I chose press release. A clean version, not out of mercy, but because success was revenge enough. That night, in the quiet of our penthouse, Daniel poured 2 glasses of champagne. How does it feel? He asked. I stared at the city lights and let out a slow breath. Honestly, not as satisfying as I imagined, but necessary. I had spent years planning for this moment, but now I realized he was right. You've outgrown their approval, Daniel said quietly, watching me from the balcony doors. Exactly. I smiled, turning to gaze out at the glittering Dallas skyline from our penthouse. Beyond the glass, the city stretched wide, lights flickering like stars. The acquisition was done. Grayson Steelworks, a name that had once meant everything to my family, was now a subsidiary of the company they mocked me for dreaming about. Iron is expanding into Europe next quarter, I murmured, and our workforce tech initiative it'll open doors for thousands of people who'd never have the chance. Otherwise. Daniel stepped closer, his arm slipping around my waist. Changing lives. That means more than any revenge, doesn't it? I nodded slowly. It did. For years, I thought proving them wrong would feel like victory. But standing here with everything I'd built, I understood this was bigger than a grudge. My phone buzzed on the marble countertop. A text from Patrick. I never knew. I'm sorry. I stared at the words for a long moment before setting the phone face down without replying. Some bridges, once burned, aren't worth rebuilding. The next morning, I stepped through the glass doors of Ironcrest headquarters. The air hummed with energy, screens lining the walls. Flashing news headlines. Ironcrest acquires Grayson Steelworks in landmark deal. Strategic brilliance praised by analysts. Employees turned to greet me with smiles, nods, quiet respect. The family I had chosen, the family that had chosen me back. Marcus was waiting at my office door, his expression a mix of pride and readiness. The Grayson transition team is here, he said. What's our first move? I sank into my chair, pulled up the strategic rollout plan on my sleek glass desk, and smiled. First move. We show them what real leadership looks like. Because this was never about revenge in the way they imagined, not about humiliating them at a boardroom table or watching their empire collapse. No, the best revenge is quiet, steady, undeniable, building something so powerful, so impactful, that those who doubted you become nothing more than a forgotten footnote in your story. I glanced at the glowing headlines one more time before closing the screen. The past was done. The future was mine. I want to hear from you. Tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have fought for their approval, or walked away sooner? For years, I believed that proving myself to my family would make everything feel whole again. But the truth, the moment you stop chasing someone else's validation is the moment you take back your power. So, drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you think. Was I right to handle it this way? Should I have gone public with the second press release, or was letting success speak for itself the ultimate move? If you connected with my story, even for a moment, hit that subscribe button, not just because there's more to come, and trust me, there is. but because stories like this matter. They're reminders that sometimes the people who should cheer for us the loudest are the ones who doubt us most. And when that happens, you have two choices: let their doubt define you, or let it ignite you. Here's my advice to you, from someone who's lived it. Stop waiting for permission to chase what lights you up. Stop waiting for applause from people who might never clap for you. Build your life so loud, so full of purpose, that their opinions become background noise. I learned the hard way that success isn't about proving someone wrong, it's about proving yourself right. If you're struggling right now, thinking you're not enough because someone told you so, hear this: you are more than their limited vision of you. Their doubts are not your destiny. Every late night you put in, every risk you take, that's building something they'll never understand until it's undeniable. And when that day comes, you'll realize the real victory isn't their recognition, it's your freedom. So stay with me. More stories, more truths, more strategies to rise above every you can't you've ever heard. They're coming. Hit subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And most importantly, leave a comment telling me one thing. What's the dream they said you couldn't achieve? And what's your next